All right, welcome. This is Making a Millie on the Fantasy Fling DFS channel. We are talking Draftkings Millie Maker, GPP, large field. Talking with the boys. Let's get into it. Week 4, guys. How we doing?
Good, man. Good. Still
Doing
not
pretty good. Glad to be back. Sorry, I've missed the last few episodes. Things have been a little bit busy, but I'm glad to be back.
Coming from the future, 6 hours ahead of us.
Yeah, man. Glad to have you back. We're drinking coffee. You're drinking whiskey. So here we are.
Yeah.
Eric's in Netherlands, so he's about 8 hours ahead. We're recording this Mountain Time USA. So that's like, what, 10 o'clock, 10 a.m.? So
yeah, 10 a.m. your time. Yes. Thanks for sacrificing. I appreciate it. Otherwise, I'd be doing this like 2 a.m.
Of course. Well, Eric, we're going to go to a segment, of course, the Walk of Shame. So we will start it out with you if you got one from last week.
I do have a walk of shame, and it's from one league. I'm in a lot of leagues, as you guys know. Most of them are dynasty, but I don't think the decisions I made were bad, but the outcome was really bad. In one of the leagues I'm in, I started. So like I said, I think the process was okay, but the outcome was terrible. But it ended up being a difference of 70 points I could have had in a league. But in one of the leagues, I started Jameer White over Singletary. I started Ayuk over Deontay. Started Adams over Myers and Kelsey over Komet. Which on paper, it's like, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. Like, those are all starts you would have. But I ended up losing about 70 points on all those starts. So my walk of shame is just having a bench that would have outscored a lot of rosters that, regular rosters. So that's my walk of shame in that league. That was pretty bad. I ended up losing about like 70 points in that league. So
brutal.
That
This
is
the beginning of the year, been mismanaging a lot of my season-long lineups.
Yeah, I mean, who would have argued starting Devontae Adams over Jacoby Myers or Kelsey over Komet? It seems like a logical choice, but the outcome wasn't quite close to what I wanted.
These things happen. You know how it is. Paul, what about you? Do you got one?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a guy we've brought up in this segment before already. And I think I was just hoping Lightning would hit the same spot 3 times last week, because it has twice with Rashid Shaheed, and last week that did not happen for me. Oddly enough, Jennings was great, and in a weird way, Dak bailed me out to win some money in the Millie Maker. But as you can see, I am still very much employed and not a millionaire.
Oh, by the way, just to interject, I listened to last week's podcast, and you mentioned me talking about Derek Carr. I know who that guy is. I watched it all the time. Like I said, he returned back to earth.
Yep.
There's Derek Carr.
Snap back to reality.
Yeah.
Raider Derek Carr reared his ugly head.
All the people jumping on the bandwagon too soon. I mean, they're probably fair weather fans. They don't really watch enough, but I knew it was coming. I was like, yeah, he's going to fall back to earth. He always goes through these. Anyway, sorry to interrupt, but yeah, he goes through those small bursts and then falls back to reality.
Yeah, it sure does. Yeah, I guess that was to be expected. I faded him. I was like, I'm not falling for the recency bias. It's Derek Carr. Not happening.
It is Derek Carr.
But I will say my walk of shame is, if there was a donkey move to be made, it was playing chalk wide receivers. And I did that last week. The 2 top guys, the Devonta Smith, the Ayuk of the slate. I played both of these guys and kind of crushed me. So if there's one thing about DFS is, like, even if a guy's like in a really good spot, unless it's like Tyreek Hill or like Justin Jefferson in an amazing spot, more times than not, they fail because Juwan Jennings catches all the touchdowns, So
because everyone saw that coming.
Yeah, you don't want to be like super over the field on those guys. You want to be over the field on the number 2. So that's my walk of shame.
Yeah.
But if you guys are here and you like this type of content, let us know. Hit that like button. Really appreciate it. Really helps. Comment. Let us know if you had a walk of shame last week. But let's go ahead and get into the Vegas lines of this week 4 slate, guys. So, for me, obviously, we're going to do our dice roll and we're going to build our lineups. That's the format of the show. We do a roll of the dice. and because that's what the Millie Maker is, and you're forced to pick one of the games based on the dice roll to stack. So that's what we're gonna do, and we're gonna start out with a few game environments, of course, that we think could be good. So you guys obviously watched the Washington game on Monday night, and knowing what we know about the Cardinals too, both of these teams have a bad secondary. What kind of sucks though is this game started with a 50.5 point total and it's gone down to 49. But I think that's because of the Trey McBride injury news, bumped it down a little bit. But this game still looks pretty juicy. I like pieces on both sides as we're going to get into it when we do our stacks, our cores, our sleepers, and we stack the game. But what do you guys feel about this game?
I like it, like you said. You can go on both sides with the stack on here. You can go Harrison, Murray. You can go Robinson. Terry McLaurin's finally going. We had a great game from him last week, so that was nice to see waking that up. So yeah, you can go either way on this one.
What do you think, Eric?
Sorry about that. Yeah, I'm kind of curious about how it plays out with Jaden Daniels. Like we've seen rookies like Will Levis last year had, was a 4 touchdown game or whatever it was. It was a big game.
Yeah.
That was a great game for Daniels, but I'm curious to see if he can carry that momentum going forward. I mean, he does have a lot of talent around him, which helps, but I'm excited to see it just because I like the two quarterbacks. They're both kind of fun to watch. It's not like watching, Daniel Jones on TV last night. Both these quarterbacks are exciting and fun, so at least give you a reason to anything can happen in any play. So I like the game.
Jaden Daniels is one of those guys that we needed in the NFL. We need an infusion of young talent, and he's really good running. Doesn't have a ton of weapons, and I think a lot of weeks he's gonna disappoint. But as long as he's running as much as he is, and he's going against bad secondaries, certainly willing to play him. I will say, my initial thought in this game is to play both of the running backs because the quarterbacks are going to be chalky. Marvin Harrison is going to be chalky. And oftentimes, especially these teams, both of these teams, like they're going to run the ball. There's no Austin Eckler. So I like Brian Robinson Jr. this week. Also, just love James Conner in general for Arizona. The old man just keeps on trucking.
I know, man. I didn't know what to think of him after the kind of the injury string he went through a couple of years ago, but he's been pretty solid the last few years for sure.
Absolutely. And then so the next game we have 47.5 point total. We got Cincinnati. That's a team that's 0-3. They're desperate right now. They're going against the Panthers, who just benched Bryce Young, who looks like one of the biggest busts in NFL history at number 1. And Red Rifle revenge game narrative going against his former team. I mean, this is great. He looked great last week. Competent anyway. He brings Deontay Johnson back. So we got that. Actually the guy that they targeted in free agency, they wanted to get the ball to, they were able to get him the ball last week. He had like 14 targets. So I like this one. I lean the Bengals side of this game, but what are your guys' thoughts on this game?
To me, this is my favorite game of the slate, to be honest with you. I know there's like the whole revenge narrative, but when you have a quarterback who was, he's a quarterback for like 8 years, 10 years, I don't even know if it's Cincinnati, and he's had ups and downs, and then you see him come and just my team's the Raiders, so that was really hard for me to watch last week. I was like, oh, easy win for the Raiders, and then they got destroyed, but that was tough to watch. But I really like this game a lot. I think the Bengals have to win here. I mean, they're 0-3. It's a must-win situation for them, I think. But at the same time, you got Andy Dalton coming in, and I'm kind of rooting for him. It's nice to see a resurgence like Joe Flacco last year. Seeing Andy Dalton this year, I'm rooting for the Panthers, to be honest with you. Even though I like both teams, but in that game, I definitely like a couple of the stacks there for sure. I think T. Higgins has been quiet and he just came back last week, but it takes a little bit of time to get your underneath you, and Burrow kind of starts slow. We've seen that over the years. So one of the stacks I really like in that game is not Burrow to Chase, but Burrow to Higgins.
Yeah. I'm with
absolutely. You can go either side on this game as well. You can get a lot of value with both Hubbard and Deontay Johnson. I think we all thought, oh, Andy Dalton's going to go in there. It's kind of going to be the same thing. But now we're realizing Bryce Young might not be getting a nice offer because it really might have been him.
Yeah.
So
definitely.
Yeah, that was brutal for Bryce Young. Had Andy Dalton just been mediocre, that one might have gone a different way. But after he just came in and tore it up, that might have just killed Bryce Young's trade value.
Yeah, absolutely tainted.
Yeah. And then the last game we got, guys, we got Houston. We got another Houston going on the road to play another team on the slate that is vastly underachieved. We just talked about Cincinnati, Jacksonville, generational. Oh my God, dude. Generational does not mean what it used to be. Not mean what it used to. I'll tell you that. Trevor Lawrence has looked nothing like a generational quarterback that he was supposed to be. So the other side of that, though, Stroud has looked more like the generational quarterback that Trevor Lawrence was supposed to be. Stroud has looked great. Speaking of Carolina, they're wishing they had not taken Bryce Young and they'd just taken the guy that went number 2, CJ Stroud. He's got Nico Collins in this game. Tank Dell's out. But, he's got Nico Collins as his main stacking piece. Stephon Diggs is looking pretty good. We know Stephon Diggs wears out his welcome. Give it time, he will. But, it's only week 4. So, give it maybe a few more weeks before he's yelling at CJ Stroud on the sidelines. And they have a 25 team total, so I like it. This is a good game, I think, to target.
Yeah, I like this game a lot because they both just got whooped badly.
Yeah.
So both have a lot to prove. I think more so the Jags, but yeah, I'm with you on the Diggs. I think one thing you've noticed about Diggs over the last year is he started strong the first half of the season, and maybe it's an age thing or whatever the case may be, but he's kind of tapered off a little bit towards the end. So I think playing him at this point is still somewhat safe. Like I said, I'm not sure if it's an age thing or whatever the case may be, or if he just gave up on the team, but that's how it kind of happened the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Paul, I love your beard, man.
Kind of how I felt about this game already this morning. I was surprised that this came up as the third slated game. I thought by any chance Green Bay Vikings or Eagles Bucks would be that third game. But yeah, I would also go on the Texans side. I don't really want to stack the Jacksonville side with this game. But yeah, with Dell out, it's still a high passing offense. There's value in there.
Yeah, I was listening to Tournament Tactics yesterday, and the crew, the DFS Army crew, they're saying they want to stack Trevor Lawrence a little bit in this one. It's it's the ultimate opposite of recency bias, right? So recency bias is Trevor Lawrence sucks and you should fade him, and they're like, yeah, but it's DFS, so maybe this is the week that he gets right. I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm gonna follow that. But I understand. I understand the contrarian play of Trevor Lawrence isn't nearly as bad as he's looked the past few weeks. He's cheap. He's got cheap stacking options.
Really
so
cheap.
There's a contrarian take on it for sure.
I just honestly I've been kind of playing around with lineups and stuff, and instead of looking at I try to stack almost every game to see what I can find, and I've actually kind of gone that route and watched. I've kind of gone with the Trevor Lawrence stack. Because it's like sometimes you have to zig when everyone else zags. So
sure.
But yeah, it's funny you mentioned that because I was actually doing most of my stacks with the Jaguar side.
Yeah, you see it time and time again. Looking at past winners, I can't believe that stack won.
Yeah, plus it's the NFL. You can any team that looks like the worst team in the league can just come in 1 week and just kill it. It's a competitive league.
We had Daniel Jones and the Movie Maker, so. Jones neighbors stack. So yeah, absolutely.
Well, guys, let's go at speaking of stacks, let's get into the top stacks, the 3 top stacks that we like. All right, Eric, I'll start it out with you. What are your top stack target this week?
Yeah, man. Do you want me to go through all 3 or are we just gonna go 1-1-1?
Yeah, let's just do your favorite 3, and then
I had 3. I had a bunch, but I narrowed it down to 3. I think the first one's kind of obvious. I like CJ Stroud and Nico Collins. I think that's it's probably going to be a chalky type stack
Home
play,
run.
but I really like it. And also one that may not be as much, but I like Justin Fields and Pickens. We've seen Fields can, run for a 90-yard run and break it out. Also, Pickens can catch a slant and take it, 80, 90 yards also. So that's one that's maybe not as popular. And the other one is maybe a little chalky as well, but I like Kyler Murray and Marvin Harrison Jr.
Okay. All right. I like those. I like those a lot. You stole one of mine and like half of my other one. So spoiler alert. But
And just to be clear, we don't talk about what we're doing beforehand.
Yeah.
So if they overlap, then it just happens to be.
Definitely. Paul.
Yeah, honestly, like you said, we don't talk before this. Outside of setting up the time, so 2 of those is pretty much already where I went. The other one was stacking the Panthers defense with Deontay and Hubbard.
Okay. I like a secondary stack too, by the way. 77% of Millie Maker winners have some sort of secondary stack. So, when we think of stacks, it doesn't always necessarily need to be in terms of the quarterback plus their pass catcher. So I like that. Sometimes it's just, I want to avoid this quarterback, but I want this cheap stack that I think could do well in this game.
Yeah.
Cool. For me, it was the Stroud to Collins and Diggs. I will say though, I think with Stroud to get there, he's going to have to do it with 2. So at his salary, and him not being a running quarterback really. So I think with Stroud, I'm stacking with 2. So I would do both Collins and Diggs. Obviously, that's not a cheap stack. So you're going to have to pay down at other spots.
Yeah.
You're looking probably to play like Chuba Hubbard or Najee Harris, like one of these cheap guys. So that would be my top stack. The other one I like is the one that I gave out last week, Purdy. I like Purdy. They have a 25.5 team total. He's getting Kittle back this week, so he always looks better when Kittle's out on the field. Debo might even play. He's questionable. So if Debo plays, he has basically his full arsenal minus Christian McCaffrey. So they're 10.5 point favorites, and they really need like a get right game. So
yeah,
I like Purdy.
I agree with you on that. Like I think if they were 3-0, I bet Debo would probably sit. But the fact that they're 1-2, if he can play, he may, just to help get back on track. Like you said, that's a great point you made.
Thanks. Yeah.
So,
Ayuk throwing temper tantrums in practice. We'll see. That's obviously a risky one, but I like that stack. So, and then the last stack for me that I was looking at, obviously I like Kyler Murray in that game, the big game environment, but I would be looking for leverage spots. I expect Marvin Harrison to be highly owned. So I would be looking for like a Michael Wilson, Greg Dortch, just as leverage off that. And Kyler Murray does enough with his legs that I don't think you need to stack him with 2. So just, a cheap stacking option with Kyler Murray as leverage off of Marvin Harrison builds. I'd be about that.
We've seen Dortch go off. Like I think, was it last year or the year before? He had like 6 or 7 games straight where he scored 15 plus fantasy points.
Yeah,
and that was in half PPR, so full PPR would be even more. But he's definitely had sections or segments where he can go off. Dortch, I mean, and I don't know what his price is, but I'm sure he's really cheap.
Most definitely. Well, let's do our next segment. We'll go straight to our cores. Eric, I will have you start it off.
I think so. The one that I have listed, and I'm sure he's one of the chalk players in cash games for sure, but is Brian Robinson. I think with Eckler being out, I'm not sure he may get a couple more passes, but I feel like they're going to lean on him a lot. Brian Robinson is one of the core players I have listed. Same with Jordan Mason. I think the 49ers, they when they had the lead last week, they kept passing and passing and passing. Maybe they should have run a little more. Jordan Mason's definitely not McCaffrey, but he's a good running back.
Yeah.
And the last one I have is Nico Collins, who I've included one of my stacks as well, but I think he's going to have a great week. I think Tank Dell, he's kind of a downfield guy. Tank Dell kind of can be too, but you take Tank Dell away and you just have Nico Collins and Diggs. I think Nico Collins is going to be a great core play this week.
Definitely, I love that one. That's you stole one of mine again, so it's fine. I'll let it happen. But
Let it slide this time.
Yeah, Paul, who you got for your course?
Sure. So you're gonna have to pay up a lot for this guy, but Saquon at 8,000. I'm gonna try to get him slotted in with the injuries at wide receiver. Juwan Jennings gonna go back to him, kind of depending on the Debo situation. I don't know if Debo's gonna play this week. I don't know if after those temper tantrums, they're gonna throw a lot to Ayuk. I don't know if this might be one of those things with Coleman last week. I think he was late to a bunch of practices, so they took him out of a couple of drives. I don't know if they really have the luxury to take a guy out this week, but I think I kind of want to go back to him again. And then Deontay Johnson, $5,600, so that's a good value.
Great one.
I'm kind of surprised Deontay's not a little higher. I get that.
I think he will. I think after this week, if we see same thing as last week, you're gonna see him closer to the 7,000s next week. So
I was excited because I drafted Deontay in most of my leagues that I did redraft and such or best ball because the guy gets hurt a lot, but he's also really good, and I was excited to see Dalton just kind of unlock him. I'm sure that everyone else was a breath of fresh air for Deontay too. It's like someone could throw me the ball. I'm sure he was excited to get the ball thrown more than 5 yards. So, yeah.
I think this is definitely going to be. If we have the same week as last week, same usage or similar usage, this is probably the last week you're going to catch him at 5,600.
Yeah. Yep.
Awesome. Yeah, I love those. Definitely Deontay. So I'll get into mine. First off, Brian Robinson. I just think that Washington, they don't have a ton of pass catchers that really scare you. So if you can slow down McLaurin, I really like Brian Robinson in this game to get a lot of work and, potentially get goal line touchdowns, opportunities for tutties there. I like Nico Collins in that matchup going against the Jags. I think he's really the alpha in that offense, and he's a guy I expect to get a lot of targets. He's getting about 10 targets a game. So I love him. And then the third one, I'm going to show you guys, courtesy of DFS Army, we got Saquon Barkley in a good matchup. So he's averaging like 30 points a game. He's going against a bottom half of the league run defense, and he isn't projected for a ton of ownership, about 9% ownership. So I think Saquon is a guy that's really could help you take down some tournaments this week. So, and he's honestly, I think he should be chalk, and he's not chalk. So it's kind of surprising to me. So I love Saquon. And by the way, guys, right now, DFS Army, if you want access to this optimizer for the projections, the ownership projections, lineup building, which I'm about to show you my lineups here in a minute. Right now, they're doing a special for your first month. It's basically $49, and this includes all sports. So this is normally $89, and you get it for about $40 off. So use code VIP50, and I will put the link in the video description. So that's going to do it for our cores. We are going to do the next section where we're going to do the dice roll, and then we'll start doing our lineup building, and then we'll each go over our sleepers. So let's, Eric, why don't we start with you? Ready?
And by the way, before we get into it, I know this is, we have no script or anything we follow. I'll say that the DFS Army, Geek, I think is the owner. Super nice guy. Like there was a time period like a couple years ago where they ran a veteran special and I missed it, and Brandon had reached out to him and they sent it to me. He's like, "Hey, we'd love to have you join. Here's the discount for veterans." So they're super nice people. I've talked with them briefly. Good company. Like they're they're not as big as some of the others, but I think they're super underrated.
I started listening to his podcasts a lot more now. Definitely, he had some choice words for Kelsey last week. But yeah,
We just had an 80K takedown, by the way. Some girl,
Yeah.
DFS Army VIP, she took down. She won 80K on the Thursday night game.
nice.
So
I
big
mean, if you
wins
consider
too.
like the size of the
To your
company
point,
versus
man.
some of the other ones, they seem like they win way more often than a lot of the big guys out there, you know? I think the numbers
Yeah,
don't lie.
absolutely. Yeah, definitely. Well, Eric, let's do this
All right,
dice roll
so
for
we're
you.
tight.
So it's going to be a 1 or 2 or a 3. Oh, you got number 3.
3.
I'm sorry. I'm sure you're not very happy about that. So number 3 is going to be the Texans versus the Jaguars. So I don't know. I probably
Yeah.
would like that one even a little better.
You
I wouldn't
know,
hate it.
I gave a hint earlier on kind of where I'm going with it, so it won't be a super surprise.
This is
But yeah,
Paul.
I'm okay with it. It's fine. I wanted the
Number
bag,
4, I get to pick my own
the
grape.
Bengals and Panthers, but it's okay. I'm good with it.
Number 2.
Yeah. You're good. You're good with it. It's a good one for sure. So Paul's got number 2. So that leaves me with number 1. Lucky me. So Paul gets the Bengals at Panthers. He has to stack that game somehow. Now he already had kind of a stack, right? That he liked Chuba Hubbard and Deontay. So it doesn't have to be the quarterback if he doesn't want to. And then there is me is going to be Arizona Washington is the number 1 game. So as we are building our lineups, we're going to go ahead and do some of our sleepers. So in fact, we'll just kind of start it with Eric listing his sleepers, his 3 sleepers first.
Yeah,
So Eric
you know,
have his
honestly,
sleepers.
I had built like I had like 8 sleepers, which I mean, I guess any player that has the
Okay.
ability to break out and what in a single game could be a sleeper, right? But there's a few that I was looking
Yeah.
at, and he kind of narrowed it down to 4, I think, maybe 3. The first one I have is one that's, I mean, this is like digging deep, but it's Jahan Dotson. You know, it's a crutch argument to say, okay, who else do they have because they don't have AJ Brown and you know Devonta Smith, like everyone's hurt. We've seen Jahan Dotson do well, and he's had really good games in Washington back in the time. I mean, he's looked terrible now. He hasn't had much volume at all, but I mean that's as deep of sleepers you could possibly get, I think, on a talented quarterback who's been struggling.
Yeah.
You know, I think he's only, I don't even know, I think 2% owned. It's pretty low. But Jahan Dotson was the one that I threw like as a deep sleeper because it's a crutch argument to say, okay, well, who else do they have? But at the same time, if he's the number 1, then they have the best coverage too. So, you know, it's a crutch argument, but he's one that I chose. Another one I had was Mike Evans. If I'm wrong, I apologize, but I saw him listed at 6%
It's a good game environment.
ownership. I think people forget Evans. I mean, he's had 2 bad games in a row, but he's a guy who could put up 3 touchdowns. What's that?
Yeah.
Sorry, what was that? I apologize.
He is. And you sold him, but it's fine.
I did it again. Mike Evans is 7,000. He's 6% owned, somewhere around there, and I guess he's a sleeper because he's pretty that low owned. But I mean, the guy can do any given week. He can kill it. So, and the last one I narrowed it down to was because this is actually before the news with Devontae Adams broke. I had Trey Tucker or Jacoby Myers. I went with Trey Tucker because he's more similar to like a Rashid Shaheed type guy, where I think he had one of the fastest 40s ever counted. So I mean, he could literally, you know, on a given play, he could break a extremely long touchdown. So Trey Tucker was my last one. He's only 3,600, but that I had him listed before the news broke about you know, Devontae Adams about the hamstring. But those are my 3.
It's great. I love it. I love it. Spoiler alert. This won't be the last time we hear Trey Tucker. So, Paul, who do you got for your sleepers? Who do you like?
Sure. So just to get some of the value out of the tight end position, I'm going with Mike Gesicki again at 3,500. We've seen it this entire year. The hero tight ends cost a lot of money, aren't really producing the points to back up that money. So you can get him for a steal at 3,500. Another one that's going to be emerging this week, Carson Steele. I'm liking him at 5,500. It seems the Chiefs defense or Chiefs offense can plug in a running back into there and have a lot of success with him. So 5,500, that's another great value.
1% ownership. That's the main key there with Carson Steele. 1% projected ownership.
And then, like I've already mentioned him, Chuba Hubbard. I don't know if that's really a sleeper.
Got to be under 10% ownership.
Yeah,
be a sleeper.
What's he projected at this week? Do they really have him that high?
He's projected at 18%, so not a sleeper.
I don't know then.
It's okay, Paul.
That was going to be a lot lower.
It's okay.
Maybe people kind of pumping up that Carolina offense a lot more than we think.
Yeah. No, I'll give you one. Ramondre Stevenson, Paul. He's 3% going against.
I have him as one of my nice call, nice pick on that one. I had him as like one of the ones I was debating on putting up there because he had a bad week last week and people were like, "Oh, giving up on him."
Yeah,
recency bias is a thing for sure.
It is.
Absolutely. Well, I'll give you guys mine real quick, and then we'll finish with our lineups here. So, Eric stole mine. Mike Evans. I like Mike Evans this week just because whenever like Mike Evans is at low ownership is the time to play him because he has that big playability. He's projected for 4% ownership via DFS Army's domination station. So I like Mike Evans. My other guy that I talked about, Michael Wilson, he got 9 targets last week. So McBride's out. The chalk's going to be on Marvin Harrison Jr. Play the young, talented as well, wide receiver who's 4,200 and projected for 5% ownership. So he's a sleeper for me. Kind of been on him all week. And once McBride was out, kind of a no-brainer. I do expect him to maybe get a little bit more ownership by lock, but we'll see. And then last, Eric, you kind of mentioned this with your stacks. George Pickens, 7% ownership. I like him in that spot, 5,700 going against just a very poor Indianapolis team. They've just given up a lot of points. So I like Pickens this week. He's had some tough matchups to start the year, Patrick Surtain and whatnot, but it's a much better matchup for him in this spot. So those will be my 3 sleepers. And let's go ahead and finish this up with our lineups, guys. Eric, why don't you start it out?
All right. I don't think it's a surprise. I had ideas of what I want to do with my lineup outside of some of the stacks, but I went the Jags stack. And I went with Trevor Lawrence and Christian Kirk. Okay. I debated on if I wanted to go with the rookie, if I wanted to go with another route, or with Gabe Davis, who can have big games at times. But I went with Kirk. They found a connection last week, although it was in garbage time. they still found it, so I'm going with Lawrence and Kirk.
Last week.
What's that?
And Dak got me lots of points in garbage time last week. Fantasy does not care.
Listen, if there's a team that's going to be known for garbage time, you go back to Blake Bortles, which was Jaguar.
Yep.
Are we maybe following a pattern? I don't know.
Hey, those points work out the same.
Yeah, so we're going back to the Lawrence stack instead of going to the Texas stack. I think it was the obvious way to go with Stroud and Nico Collins, or Stroud and Diggs. I went with the Jag side of things. I think the ownership is going to be a lot lower. I think a lot of people get up on Lawrence. I mean, he's you've seen him. He can have good games, but he can also have pretty good running games too, where he scores points. For my running backs, I went with you mentioned it earlier, Brandon, but I went with Saquon Barkley. He's 8,000. I think that was you, right? You mentioned Paul. Sorry, it was Paul. You were Paul.
Yeah,
but I think you did.
You're gonna have to pay up for him. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I also went with Jonathan Taylor. For some reason, from what I could tell, his numbers were low as far as the ownership percentage. Am I wrong on that? They were
pretty low.
So I'm a big proponent of guys who are talented. A guy who can, there's only a few running backs in the league who can just. I mean, I guess anybody who's fast can do it, but a few like really good running backs like Barkley, Taylor, who can take a yard or a handoff 90 yards, or a screen pass 90 yards, whatever the case may be. So I have Taylor and Barkley. Kind of expensive from my start there for the running backs, but I have Lawrence and Kirk. I have Jacoby Myers in this stack that I went with it. I kind of rotated Trey Tucker and Jacoby Myers. With Adams being out, his ownership may go up, but we'll find out. I also have Mike Evans, as we talked about as well.
Mhm.
And I also put Travis Kelce. I don't think I've ever seen him at 5,800. He's the
Yeah,
lowest I think
cheapest
he's
he's ever
ever
been.
been. And I
Yeah.
think that at some point maybe he's washed, but maybe he also has a great game.
I like it. I'm into
For the
it.
flex, I have Marvin Harrison Jr., who's fairly high owned. And then for the DST, for the defense, I put New Orleans. For some reason over the years, they just, no matter who the quarterback is of Atlanta, they just always seem to have their number. So we'll see if that trend continues. But I put the Saints as the defense against Cousins. Although, admittedly, I'm rooting for Cousins. I like the guy. But we'll see how it goes with him. So to recap, Lawrence,
Awesome.
Taylor, Barkley,
I like
running
it.
backs. My receivers are Kirk, Myers, and Evans. The tight end is Kelce. The flex is Marvin Harrison Jr. And the defense is the Saints.
You got a lot of ceiling there, a lot of firepower with the cheap stack, and so I think that's the main idea. Is your lineup has a lot of heavy hitters that can take down a large field GPP. So I like it.
I hope so.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome, Paul. Who do you got for us?
So I didn't go with the quarterback on this, like I already mentioned. So I'm actually going with Jaden Daniels as the quarterback, followed by Chuba Hubbard. I'm going with Aaron Jones this week. He is still healthy.
Nice revenge game.
Biggest thing with Aaron Jones, everybody just says, hey, man, the guy's going to get injured. Then he's going to get you 0 points. Well, he's not injured, and he's playing great right now. So I'm plugging him in this week. Deontay Johnson. I am going back to Juwan Jennings again this week.
Okay.
The team isn't healthy again. They still need to throw to him. I don't know if Debo is going to play. That's kind of a thing I want to leave up until pretty much the end of the day today, just so we can get some news on that.
Sure.
But after that, Jamar Chase, Mike Gesicki, just to get value in the tight end position, Carson Steele, and I paid up a little bit with where I saved money to get the Pittsburgh defense against Indy.
All right, man. I like it. Pretty good. I'll finish this up with mine, and then of course we can get out of here. So this is what the domination station gave me. I ran 150 lineups, and my stack was the first one. So I had Kyler Murray to Marvin Harrison Jr. In this stack, I am eating that chalk, but he's actually Marvin Harrison Jr. as of right now, not getting a ton of ownership. We'll see if that climbs. But overall, I like it. This is 123%, which is under like the 130% average that you will see. So I got Kyler Murray to Marvin Harrison Jr. And then as opposed to, forcing like the McLaurin, like I said, Brian Robinson Jr. is one of my cores. So have Brian Robinson Jr. Bring back in that game. I like Chuba Hubbard, the cheap option going against the Bengals, as we talked about. And I do have that stack as well, Paul. So Chuba Hubbard to Deontay Johnson. Clearly, you just copied the domination station, but it's fine. Chris Godwin and Dallas Goedert. So I got another secondary stack in here. I like Dallas Goedert this week with Devonta Smith and potentially AJ Brown out. I think he could get a ton of targets. So I'm all about that. And obviously Godwin he's kind of played the Cooper Kupp role in the McVay offense. So I expect him to continue to get peppered with targets. And then last, Eric Trey Tucker, domination station gave him to me. Normally when they start pushing a guy, it's a good idea to play him. So with Devontae Adams being out, everyone's going to be on Brock Bowers. But yeah, look at the wide receivers in that game. Trey Tucker works for me. And then we got the Rams going against Caleb Williams, rookie quarterback with some offensive line issues. So overall, I really like this lineup and definitely think it has the potential to take down the Millie. So we'll see. We'll see tomorrow.
Yep.
Any final thoughts, guys?
No,
I like it. I see the Rams there as a good pickup. I mean, it's kind of not the same without Aaron Donald, but they're still good. I mean, they were able to, they let up a lot of points to the Niners, but then they stopped him completely. So I think with a rookie, they can definitely cause some damage. And the Trey Tucker, not being biased, but the guy's kind of like a Rashid Shaheed type guy. He's really fast. It only takes a couple plays for him to make the week. I like it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I will say,
and he's 3,600, so
the
it's very
Chuba
easy
Hubbard,
for him
man.
to 4x his salary.
Oh yeah, for sure. The Chuba Hubbard one, man, like that one is kind of bittersweet. Like I gave up on him many leagues, and now like with the resurgence, I'm like, damn it, I made some mistakes. Not DFS, but other leagues. But anyway, yeah, it's a tough pill to swallow.
Right. Definitely. Well, I think that's going to wrap it up for this week of Making a Millie. Thank you for joining us. Like I said, if you guys like this kind of content, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Hit that like button. It really helps. Let us know who you're on this week. And, we'll see you next week. Hopefully one of us wins a Millie. Hopefully someone watching does really well. But best of luck. We'll see you next time.